Rappers who destroyed their careers with one bad interview.
Come on, chill out.
You
bro.
ain't got the answers.
Kanye,
You ain't got the answers.
I'm asking you.
You
a
ain't been
question.
doing the education.
Bro.
Do you want to win any of these items on your screen? If so, be sure to watch the whole video, leave a like, and comment the hidden message. And with that being said, let's get right into the video. You won't believe how bad these artists screwed up in their interviews. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to King Trending. Number 8. Kanye West.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway.
This entry comes from 2013, where he was on Shade 45 on Sirius XM, and he was being interviewed by Sway, a very respectable man in the industry and in radio. And at the time, Kanye was doing a press tour, very basic stuff. But also at this time, he was starting to get his roots into the fashion industry, which many people question at the same time, and still to this day, if we're being honest. Sway was one of the people who started to ask some very deep questions about how Kanye was going to make it into the fashion industry. Kanye answered, well, like Kanye West does when he feels threatened. You ain't got the answers, Sway. Kanye just erupted, and then Sway tried to calm him down, and Kanye just wouldn't really have any of it.
And don't need them and do it yourself.
How, Sway?
Take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers, man.
Again, this is rather typical of Kanye, so to say we should have expected this is fairly obvious. Just as typical though, Kanye eventually flipped the switch and reverted it back into his calmer demeanor, so that he could just hug it out with Sway. To be clear, this interview happened before Kanye's admission of being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but here it's clear that this was what was going on. Number 7. R. Kelly.
This is not me, y'all. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this.
R. Kelly is without a doubt a big player in regards to the history of the rap industry. He's a legend, but recent events of his own doing have led him to having a dramatic fall from grace in numerous ways, mainly because more and more people are coming out about him mistreating multiple women and doing stuff with minors. And this speaks nothing of his home, of which he apparently has brainwashed women into living with him. All of these events led to the creation of a documentary series called Surviving R. Kelly, which has turned the once beloved music maker into a spurned and hated figure, even getting rallies and hashtags started to try and silence the figure in terms of his media exposure. Needless to say, R. Kelly wasn't too happy about that, and so to end it, he reached out to Gayle King at CBS News to do an interview with him. And to his credit, it started out simple enough, but eventually he couldn't control himself and had a legendary blow-up, which is still popular on the internet despite the time that has passed since its airing. The interviewer kept calm during the event, even though she didn't see this particular act of aggression coming. I could see it escalating, but I didn't think he was going to jump out of his chair. Even when he jumped out of the chair, I have to say, I didn't think he was going to do anything to me. It's just that he was extremely emotional and extremely worked up. Further to her credit, Gayle did everything she could to save the interview, which shows her class versus R. Kelly's. I've had people get irritated, but no, I've never had that happen to me before. I can't say that I know how to handle this kind of thing, or that I was even prepared for this kind of thing because I just wasn't expecting it. I just knew that I wanted to save that interview and wanted to do whatever I could to save it without getting out of my chair. The interview was shown in chunks over the course of a few days, but the results were basically the same throughout. It showed R. Kelly as arrogant, volatile, and rage-filled, which further backed up what the documentary series was saying about him. And even if he could get another interview and try to go through it without another blow-up, this interview will still be remembered. Number 6. Nicki Minaj.
I know there's some chicks here waiting to sing Starships later. I'm not talking to y'all right now.
One of the queens of rap, Nicki Minaj has proven time and time again that if you try and mess with her, you're going to regret it. And one person that felt her wrath in her own time and way was Peter Rosenberg. Back in 2013, he made an appearance at Summer Jam, which was hosted by Hot 97, where Rosenberg worked. He went on stage to address the crowd and said, "I know there's some chicks here waiting to sing Starships later. I'm not talking to y'all right now. I'm here to talk about real hip-hop. People here to see A$AP Rocky today. People here to see Schoolboy Q on the stage. That's I represent." Starships is one of Minaj's songs, and she didn't take this too kindly, and so to the point where she canceled her appearance in a bit of a protest to the event. Months after the event in March of 2013, she was invited out to Hot 97 to talk with Rosenberg and hash things out. She claimed that she was over it, but also wasn't afraid to say what she thought of him. "I don't know your resume. Never found you funny. Never found you entertaining. I never found you smart. I just found you annoying." So yeah, she clearly wasn't over it, and again, Minaj does not mess around. Number 5. Kanye West, again.
Says something like, "I am a god." Everybody says, "Who does he think he is?"
I just told you who I thought I was, a god.
Yeah, you thought we were done with Kanye? Oh no, as I noted, Kanye has had too many outbursts and weirdness going on with him that he just has to be on the list at least more than once. You can literally make a whole list about interviews that Kanye West has done in the past, and each one would be even weirder, outrageous, and crazier than the one before it. It's truly hard to pick and choose which one is the worst or best, but when he went on and got interviewed by BBC Radio 1's Zane Lowe, he went a bit too far in terms of how honest he was with himself to answer some of Lowe's questions. For example, here's how he decided to define himself. When someone comes up and says something like, "I am a god," everybody says, "Who does he think he is?" "I just told you who I thought I was, a god." Well, that's not arrogant at all. I'm pretty sure he's not even talking about being a rap god like Eminem once said in one of his songs. I think he's referring to himself as an actual god, which is not just arrogant, it's frightening that he thinks of himself that way. Oh, but he wasn't just done there. Later on, he talked about his role in the fashion industry and noted, "I put in 10,000 hours. No one can say that I don't know how to design a men's sneaker." True, the Yeezy sneaker is one of the most popular brands out there right now, but just because you put in the work doesn't mean you can make something that people will buy in bulk. How many bad movies are made despite countless hours being put into them? Or music track that singers think will be the next big hit, but really isn't. It's just the way life works. Or I probably should say that's how life works in the minds of most people. Kanye's mind is clear on another plan. Number 4. Jay-Z. I almost can't talk about this interview, not because of what Jay-Z said, but what it was about and what was going on in the room during that interview. But I'll do my best to keep it straight, and I'll be a pun as intended, as you'll see in a bit. This particular event happened in 1996, when Jay-Z was still making his name out there in the world of rap. He was brought on to Luke Peep's show and interviewed by Uncle Luke himself. The interview honestly was going pretty basic, except that Jay-Z kept noticing that something was going on just off camera. Mainly that there were 2 other women in the room while he was being interviewed, and they were basically making love right next to him while he's trying to answer Uncle Luke's question. They're having a ball over there. I mean, what more needs to be said there? How about, how did this happen? Why did Uncle Luke have these women in his room during the interview? Didn't he realize that something like this might happen? I doubt it was spontaneous. And if it was, that makes it even worse. I kind of feel bad for Jay-Z in this moment. It must have been incredibly awkward for him. Thankfully, this happened well before he married Beyonce, so this can't be used against him. Well, we hope anyway. Number 3. Cameron and 50 Cent.
Baby.
50, what up, baby?
Everything
I just want to step in because I heard you could shut things down over here, and I just want to make sure what's going on.
Sometimes it's the interviewer who causes problems, and sometimes it's the interviewee who causes the problems. And of course, there have been many times when someone else enters the conversation and totally derails things, such as the case during one February 2007 interview with Hot 97's Angie Martinez. She had 50 Cent on her show, who at the time was still big in the rap community, both in front of the microphone and behind the scenes. Anyway, he was on the show and was flexing his rapping skills and making cracks at people's expense, as 69 did back in the day. And one crack in particular was at another rapper's expense. In this case, Cameron. 50 Cent said that he had the power to prevent a record of his from coming out at a record label. Apparently, Cameron was listening on in this interview, and he got called in to confront 50 Cent about it. This led to a massive argument on air, as both sides really got into it in regards to the situation, and some people were asked to be called in so that this matter could be settled. Eventually, they had to be faded out because it was getting way too much for Angie to control. And yeah, that doesn't really surprise us given the volatile natures of both 50 Cent and Cameron. I bet Angie was a bit hesitant to have them on the show after this. Number 2. Rick Ross.
Baby, I'm worth too much money to even be, sidetracked on this carpet, you know what I mean?
When it comes to interviewing someone, there are a few rules or guidelines you should follow. And one of the biggest ones by far is that you should do your research on who you're about to interview, or at the very least know enough to guess how they would react to a certain situation. This didn't happen with an interview from Bossip, who decided that they were going to go and interview Rick Ross, who was the head of a major rap label and a key person in the progression of rap in the early days of the genre. Anyway, before he was a big name in the rap industry, he had another job, which is fine, something to be expected. However, that job was as a former corrections officer. Some people try to be cute and nickname him Officer Ricky. However, Rick Ross didn't really appreciate that nickname at all and quickly shut down the idea. And yet people at Bossip didn't really get the memo on that, so the interviewer straight up called him Officer Ricky and asked him what he felt about the nickname. His response, "Baby, I'm worth too much money to even be sidetracked on this carpet." He insulted the interviewer again before literally walking off the interview. And honestly, if someone you didn't really know didn't like a certain nickname and they called you that in a public setting like she did, I can understand him being miffed by it. Number 1, Kanye again.
I was very confused about that one. No, I mean,
What did he mean?
I don't know.
Told you we could fill a list with Kanye interviews. And while the two previous ones were odd or volatile in their own way, this one truly takes the cake when it comes to expressing just how off base Kanye West really is. In May of 2016, he appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and at first everything seemed fine. He even got the crowd very excited about the interview. Typical celebrity stuff. However, when Ellen went and asked a very simple question to Kanye, do you regret any of your Twitter posts? And that's when things went very wrong. As noted, Kanye has bipolar disorder, and at this point in time, it had really begun to show that this was his condition, to the end that he got even more and more erratic and would go off on Twitter and do massive rants that made no sense. Unlike this question, which was fair and honest, perfectly fair game for Ellen to ask, he took this question and delivered an answer in the term of a 6-minute rant. No, I'm not kidding. Kanye did a 6-minute rant on television just to answer this one question. You might think maybe he had a lot to say on this topic, and yeah, that would be true if he stayed on topic. He talked about his career in music, fashion, his race, the media, and more, and he wouldn't shut up. He would talk to Ellen, talk to the camera, talk to the audience, and yet still not give the answer to the question that he was asked. And Ellen just sat there and took it all in for about 6 minutes of his rant, because she knew she couldn't stop him, only smiling to the camera when it panned to her to show that she wasn't going to interrupt. Ellen had the patience of a saint. Of course, Kanye kept going, and then once he stopped, Ellen did her best to recover and save the show from another Kanye rant. The interview was so controversial that they actually had to break it up and put it on YouTube and other places. Way to go, Kanye. Even YouTube at times won't have one of your rants on it. And so there you have it. Some rap interviews that went really bad quickly. Can you believe that some of these interviews happened like the way they did? Also, who was the blame for how bad they were in your eyes? Was it the interviewer or the rapper? And of course, which one was the worst to you? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time on King Trending. A simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's really your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. Go for it.